Today we're checking out the Barricade Access Power running boards with integrated LEDs for the 2020 and newer Jeep Gladiator JT. If you love the capabilities of your Gladiator but you want it to be easier to get up into the cab, especially with the lift, bigger tires, or some daily passengers getting in and out, these give you that step up help without permanently hanging down low and ruining your ground clearance, so they're definitely worth considering. These boards automatically deploy when you open the doors, and they retract when you close them, which has to be their biggest feature. So you get an easy step into the cab when you're getting in and out, and then they tuck up tight for a cleaner side profile look and better ground clearance when you're driving. That's perfect on a Gladiator because you still want that ground clearance for trails and rough roads, and you don't want to smack a fixed step when you're pulling into a steep driveway or loading up on uneven ground. The integrated LED lighting on these boards is going to be a huge bonus, and it's integrated right into the bottom of the board for a seamless look, and it just looks really clean under the board. You wouldn't even notice it's there. That's going to light up the step area when the boards deploy, which makes entry safer when it's dark out, rainy, or you're stepping onto some uneven terrain. It also adds that upscale and finished premium feel that makes the truck look more functional and higher end. They also have a really nice anti-pinch safety feature that's going to stop the boards if they meet any resistance, which is a smart touch if you're parked close to some obstacles or dealing with gear around the truck. And if any kids are getting in and out, you're going to make sure that nobody gets hurt from the powered boards. The install is going to use factory mounting points. You're going to have all the included brackets and hardware you'll need, and you'll need to do some minor wiring to power the boards and the lights, but if you stick with us, we'll walk you through that install just here in a minute, and it's pretty doable. When it comes to the construction on this, you are getting extruded 6063 aluminum running boards built for superior strength and extra rigidity. That's going to be finished in a durable matte black powder coating for long-lasting protection, so they're going to look good for years to come without wearing out or getting chips on them from rocks and stepping on them. You're also getting that integrated LED lighting right on the bottom like we talked about, and that's a really clean, nice addition to the construction. And they also have a heavy-duty design rated up to 660 pound maximum load capacity. So they're not gonna flex and bend even for years to come. They're gonna be able to handle whatever you want them to. As far as the pricing goes on these, they're coming in right in the low 1000s price range. That's gonna line up with what you'd expect for a premium powered retracting board setup, but I say it's a really good price when getting that LED lighting in there because you can pay the same price or even more and not get that lighting. And especially if you compare it to some fixed steps that don't offer the same convenience or that clean tucked up look while you're driving. When it comes to the install on this one, it's going to get rated just a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter. You can have this job done in only 2 hours of your time. So let's head on out to the shop. We're going to give you a detailed walkthrough of exactly how this install process goes.
All right, for this install, you're going to need a 3/8 ratchet, a 10mm socket, a 13mm socket, and a 6mm Allen, along with a pair of side cutters and a panel removal tool. Today, we're going to be installing power running boards on our Jeep. Let's get started. All right, starting off on the driver's side, we're going to start with the middle bracket. Each of these brackets are labeled, so just check your orientation. We're going to mount this one up. And with our provided hardware, it's kind of hard to see. We'll just get one bolt threaded in. And we'll let that sit there. And then we're going to move our other bolt and mount it right here. All right, now we're going to mount our hardware onto our pinch weld. And now we're going to come back in, tighten this down with a 13mm socket. All right, now we can tighten down our top mounting bolt with a 13mm socket. All right, now that you have your 2 bolts mounted up on the middle bracket, you can do the same for the front and the rear bracket, and also repeat the same exact steps for the other side. All right, now that we have the bracket installed, we can move on to installing the running boards. We're first going to flip this over and unscrew all of our mounting hardware. All right, once we have all the screws out, we can eyeball line these up and get them mounted onto the vehicle. All right, at this point, we're gonna focus on the center one because that's where the motor is. All right, once you have that on there, it should hold into place so you can get another screw underneath. All right, now that we have one screw in place, holding it there, we're gonna install the other hardware screw. And then we're gonna tighten this down with our 6mm Allen. All right, once you have these two tightened down, you can repeat for the front and the rear and also the passenger side. All right, now we're in the driver's side front. We can remove this plastic clip, this one, and also this one to remove our plastic trim so we can get access to our carpet. All right, now we can lift up on the carpet just a little bit to get to our rubber grommet that's underneath. All right, now with our grommet removed, we can send our motor and our light harness down through the hole. Since we have the plastic trim off, we're gonna run our door switches down the channel. Now we can take our door switch leads. We're gonna run it under these two wires right here. Pull that all the way through. And then we're gonna run the back one through the plastic trim. Now we're gonna take our passenger side harness and we're gonna remove our driver's side carpet and tuck it up through the center. All right, it's kind of hard to see, but there is one clip holding in the carpet on the driver's side footwell. Once you have that pulled back, you can now run your harness through the center. All right, once we have our harness sitting there, we can reach through and pull it through the other side. All right, once you have the harness fully pulled through on the passenger side, you can now repeat the same exact steps to get it down to the grommet. All right, once you have your harness laid out where you need to go, you can now fold your carpet back over. Once you have the carpet laid out, you can now reinstall the clip, holding onto the driver's side footwell on the carpet. Now we can take our driver's side door switch and connect that together. Once you have that secured, you can now route it underneath the trim. Now we can take the switch, remove the backing, and we're going to place this just underneath the door catch. Now we can take our door switch magnet and place it right here. Once you have that in place, you can now repeat the same exact process for the remaining 3 doors. All right, once we have all the wires tucked away, we can now install our trim paneling back onto the driver's side. All right, now we're gonna attach our ground onto the body ground. There is one attachment right next to the OBD2 connector. It is really hard to see, so we're gonna get in there with a 10mm, remove the nut, and then install this on there. All right, once you have that installed, you can tuck the wire out of any way of moving parts. All right, once you have that installed, you can now tuck the wire away out of any moving parts. All right, now we can take our power module and connect this up. Once we have that plugged in, we can take the provided hardware and connect our module up onto the driver's side frame and mount that in. Using our 10mm socket, we can now secure that down. Now we can take our positive battery lead and fish this through the firewall up into the engine bay. All right, now that we have our battery lead fed through the firewall, we're gonna pull it through. All right, now that we have the lead fully pulled through, we can now connect the other end for our battery positive lead. Now we can take the extra lead and run it across the top of the firewall and connect it to the battery. All right, now we can take our battery positive wire and connect it to our positive terminal. We're gonna use our 10mm socket and remove the nut off. And now we can tighten this down. Now we can take our harness and secure it along the top end right here. Once we have that secured, we can now repeat for the center and the drive side. All right, now we can connect our motor harness and our harness for our lights. All right, now we can take a zip tie and secure some of the wire out of the way. All right, once you have these wires connected and secured out of the way, you can repeat the same exact steps for the other side. All right, that wraps up our install for Barricade Access Power Running Boards with integrated LED on 07 to 18 Jeep Wrangler JK 4-door. Just remember, for everything Jeep related, keep it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.